He was face down in a pool of blood. She was at a bar, kissing her boyfriend. That same day, Monica Sementilli posted a tribute to her husband online, called him her soulmate. Fabio Sementilli was a beloved hair icon, a father, a husband, respected worldwide. But on January 23, 2017, someone stabbed him to death on the patio of his gated Los Angeles home. No forced entry, no signs of robbery, just a brutal personal attack and a missing Porsche. His teenage daughter found the body, screamed, slipped in his blood, called 911, but the killer was already gone. Police called it a home invasion, but it wasn't. 6 years later, Monica Sementilli sits in a courtroom, smirking. She's accused of plotting her husband's murder with her secret lover Robert Baker, a jiu-jitsu instructor 11 years her senior. Baker confessed. He's in prison for life, but he didn't go quietly.
A dramatic turn in the case of a man accused in a 2017 murder. Robert Baker has pleaded no contest to killing the famed hairdresser Fabio Sementilli. Prosecutors say it was part of a scheme with Sementilli's wife to collect his insurance money.
Well, police arrested both Baker and the victim's wife, Monica Sementilli. Prosecutors say Baker's blood was found at the crime scene. KCAL assignment editor Mike Rogers is at the desk this afternoon with a dramatic day in court. Mike?
Yeah, Juan and Susie, this is a long time coming. You know, this murder happened in 2017. They were arrested not there long after, and today he found out what he will be sentenced to. And as we look at some video from inside the courtroom today, our cameras were there. He will be sentenced to life imprisonment plus 1 day without the possibility of parole. So this man will spend the entirety of the rest of his life behind bars in a California state prison.
He was the kind of man people admired, until someone decided he was worth more dead. Fabio Sementilli wasn't just a hairstylist, he was an icon in the world of beauty. With Italian roots, a warm laugh, and a magnetic stage presence, he built a global reputation that made him a rock star in the cosmetics industry. As a vice president of education for Coty, he traveled the world, mentoring stylists, launching products, and building an empire, one strand at a time. Colleagues described him as kind, generous, and fiercely devoted to his craft. At hair shows, fans would line up just to speak with him. But no matter how far he traveled, he always came home to Monica. Monica Sementilli, born Monica Crescentini, was a striking woman, dark-haired, elegant, and social. The couple met in Toronto, where their shared Italian heritage and love for family bonded them quickly. They married in the mid-90s and had 3 children. In public, they were polished, aspirational, the kind of family others envied. But beneath the smiles, something darker was brewing. Monica, now accused of orchestrating her husband's murder, had a past far more complicated than her social media suggested. Prosecutors painted her as manipulative, deceitful, and driven by desire, both for money and for the man who wasn't her husband. Robert Baker, 62, wasn't flashy. A jiu-jitsu instructor and sometime mechanic, Baker met Monica years before Fabio's murder. The timeline is murky, but prosecutors say their affair began in secret and escalated quickly. Monica allegedly told Baker she was trapped, miserable, and worth more if her husband were dead. Friends of the family say Monica played the part of the supportive wife well, right up until the moment she didn't have to anymore. After Fabio's death, she posted loving tributes on Facebook, lamenting the loss of her soulmate. But just a day later, she was allegedly seen kissing Baker in a bar, caught on surveillance. Prosecutors claim she then went outside and made out with the bouncer. She's a liar, a manipulator, and everything that comes out of her mouth has to be taken with a grain of salt, the grand jury heard in 2023. Monica's defense tells a different story. Her attorney, Leonard Levine, argues she's been wrongly accused, framed by a man who committed the crime and is now trying to save himself by implicating her. They point to the delay in charging Monica over a year after the murder as proof that investigators didn't have a case. But prosecutors insist the motive is clear. Monica stood to gain $1.6 million in life insurance. She allegedly told Baker they could finally be together once Fabio was gone. It wasn't just about romance. They say it was about control, image, and greed. Now, as she sits in court 6 years later, her smirk says one thing, but the evidence may say another, until it wasn't. Fabio and Monica had what looked like the dream, a 20-year marriage, 3 beautiful children, a luxurious gated home in Woodland Hills, designer clothes, high-end vacations, industry parties. From the outside, they were the definition of success. but those who got close say the cracks had been there for years. Fabio was devoted to his work, his family, his image. He wasn't home often, but when he was, he made sure to provide. He doted on his daughters, he left sweet notes, he posted loving messages online. Monica, by contrast, seemed more distant. Neighbors described her as polite but guarded. She hosted events, smiled for photos, but she rarely seemed at ease. Enter Robert Baker. Their relationship, according to prosecutors, was a slow-burning fuse. They met through mutual acquaintances and began seeing each other secretly. Texts, hotel visits, confessions in the dark. Baker later claimed Monica told him her marriage was a cage and he could be her escape. They communicated constantly. At times, prosecutors said, Monica sent Baker intimate photos while her husband was away on business. Other times, she vented. He's never here, she allegedly told him. He only cares about his hair shows. Still, Fabio didn't seem to notice, or chose not to. He continued showering Monica with gifts, planning family trips, talking about the future. But Baker noticed something else. He began feeling used. Monica's promises about a future together, about what they'd do once he's gone, were consistent, specific, and as prosecutors argued, manipulative. She allegedly told Baker that the only way out was death, that a divorce would leave her with nothing, that if Fabio died, everything, money, freedom, a new life, would be theirs. He saw the signs, he just didn't want to believe them. And then, sometime in late 2016, the planning began. Afternoon, until it wasn't. January 23, 2017, was supposed to be an ordinary day. Fabio had stayed home, recovering from surgery, resting, but by 5 p.m. his 16-year-old daughter returned from school to a nightmare. Her father was lying face down on the back patio. Blood soaked the stone floor beneath him. His head and upper body were brutally stabbed. The police arrived quickly. So did the media. The Porsche was gone. No signs of forced entry. Surveillance cameras captured shadowy figures, but faces were blurred. Fabio's cell phone and wallet were still in the house. This wasn't a robbery, it was personal. At first, the story was heartbreaking. A beloved public figure killed in his own home, but behind the scenes, detectives began piecing together a darker truth. Robert Baker's name surfaced early. So did phone records, bank transactions, GPS data. When Baker was arrested, he cracked. In 2023, he confessed he had killed Fabio, but he didn't act alone, he said. He pointed the finger at Monica. Prosecutors say Monica's phone was pinged near the crime scene earlier than she claimed. They also allege that surveillance showed Monica and Baker together shortly after the murder, drinking, laughing, kissing. Then there was Christopher Austin, a new name, arrested in 2024, allegedly present at the crime scene, another piece in the conspiracy. The emotional unraveling began. Monica's Facebook posts, mourning her husband, were shown alongside bar footage of her with Baker. Friends recalled her being strangely composed. Baker, meanwhile, told a fellow inmate that Monica promised him everything. But after the murder, she became cold, distant, betrayed. She didn't just want out, prosecutors argued. She wanted him erased. He didn't cry, he just waited. By late 2016, Robert Baker wasn't just Monica's secret. He was her tool, or so prosecutors believed. According to court testimony, Monica began planting seeds of a deadly plan, subtly but steadily. She talked about life insurance. She hinted at how hard divorce would be. He'll never let me go, she allegedly told Baker. But if he's gone, we could have everything. That message hit Baker at a vulnerable time. He was aging, out of shape, and deeply infatuated with Monica. She, prosecutors claimed, made him feel important, needed. But she also knew exactly what to say to keep him hooked. Their conversations turned darker. Baker's tone shifted from protective to paranoid. He began researching Fabio online, his habits, routines, business trips. Monica allegedly helped. At one point, she told him about the security cameras at the house, which ones worked, which ones didn't. Text messages recovered by police, though not all public, reportedly showed a gradual descent into planning. There were references to dates, movements, even euphemisms for the act itself. He was obsessed, said a close acquaintance, but also calm, too calm. That eerie calm stretched over weeks. Baker began visiting Monica more frequently. There were no arguments, no pressure, just silence and waiting. According to prosecutors, the night before the murder, Monica and Baker met at a bar. She kissed him, ordered drinks, and laughed like nothing was wrong. Then she allegedly leaned in and whispered, "Tomorrow." Baker returned home, slept little. He didn't message her that morning, he didn't call. But at around 3 p.m. on January 23rd, surveillance shows a figure approaching the Sementilli home. He wore a hoodie, gloves. He knew where the cameras were. He moved with precision. Fabio was resting alone, recovering from a recent surgery, vulnerable. At 5 p.m., his daughter found him. By then, Baker was already gone, driving away in Fabio's Porsche. Monica, she was home within the hour, calm, shocked but not hysterical. She didn't cry, one officer later noted. She kept asking if he had any painkillers in his system. It felt off. The plan had played out, but it wasn't over yet. It wasn't clean, it was deliberate. On January 18, in broad daylight, Robert Baker entered the Sementilli home through a side gate. He knew where Fabio would be, on the back patio, resting. According to prosecutors, Baker crept up behind him and attacked with a knife. Fabio fought back. The autopsy showed defensive wounds, cuts on the hands, a bruised shoulder, but he was recovering from surgery. He didn't stand a chance. Stab his face, neck, and upper torso. The killer didn't speak, didn't hesitate. Blood pooled around Fabio's body. The scene was silent, suburban, surreal. Then Baker left, taking the Porsche with him. It was found later, abandoned. No neighbors reported hearing anything. The only witness, Fabio's daughter, came home hours later. When police arrived, Monica told them she was out running errands. Her story was clean, too clean. It didn't match her phone's GPS data. In the days that followed, Monica posted on Facebook. Heartbroken tributes, loving photos, her husband, her soulmate. She called him the love of my life. But surveillance from a bar that same week told a different story. Kissing Baker, flirting with strangers, laughing. That pissed Baker off, prosecutors later said. He thought he'd done this for them, for love, and she was already moving on. By the time police caught up with him in 2019, Baker was burned out and bitter. In 2023, he confessed. No trial, no fanfare. He didn't resist, he didn't explain, he just waited for them to take him away. Changed everything. The investigation into Fabio Sementilli's murder was far from simple. From the beginning, detectives knew the scene felt personal. The brutality, the lack of theft, the location. But nothing stuck until they started digging into phone records. Monica's phone had connected to a nearby tower minutes before her official alibi placed her at a shopping center. Surveillance didn't support her story. Then they found her deleted text threads with Robert Baker. The messages weren't explicit, but prosecutors argued their frequency and timing told a story. Then came the digital footprint, browser history, photos, notes. Baker's devices showed searches about crime scene cleanup, knife wounds, surveillance blind spots. He even searched Fabio's professional schedule. They traced the Porsche's route using traffic cameras. Baker had driven it 10 miles before ditching it. In 2024, a new name emerged, Christopher Austin. He was allegedly present during the crime, or at least part of the planning. His sudden arrest years later shifted everything. The defense was blindsided. They argued they should have been told sooner that Austin's involvement could reshape the entire narrative. Prosecutors countered that Monica was still the anchor. She orchestrated this, they said. She pulled the strings. But in court, her lawyers painted a different picture. A woman manipulated by an obsessed lover. A grieving wife whose strange behavior didn't equal guilt. They pointed to the lack of direct evidence. No video of her at the scene, no weapon in her possession, no confession. Still, the insurance policy loomed large, $1.6 million. Monica stood to gain nearly all of it. And Baker had nothing, except his word. And now his word had taken her all the way to trial. Not with answers, but with questions. By the time Monica Sementilli's trial date approached in late 2024, the case had already become a media frenzy. Headlines dubbed it the hairdresser murder. True crime fans dissected every detail. To some, Monica was a grieving widow wrongfully accused. To others, she was a femme fatale who weaponized seduction and greed. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. Judge Ronald S. Cohen presided. Defense attorney Leonard Levine fought to exclude what he called irrelevant and prejudicial testimony, particularly explicit comments from Baker about Monica's sexual preferences. He argued that these statements were meant to humiliate, not illuminate. But prosecutors didn't hold back. They painted Monica as manipulative, using screenshots of her Facebook tributes alongside bar surveillance, showing her with Baker days after Fabio's death. They reintroduced texts, life insurance documents, and Baker's own confession. Monica didn't just want her husband gone, one prosecutor said. She needed him gone, and she found someone willing to do it. The defense insisted there was no forensic evidence tying her directly to the crime. No fingerprints, no DNA, no camera footage placing her at the scene. They said Baker acted alone, and now, desperate to justify his actions, was dragging Monica down with him. In a shocking moment, the court learned of Christopher Austin's arrest, another alleged accomplice. Levine argued that withholding that information compromised the trial's fairness. The courtroom murmured. Psychological evaluations of Monica described her as controlled, intelligent, emotionally detached under pressure, but not psychopathic. The jury listened, watched, and waited. The trial was still ongoing as of early 2025, delayed by motions, witness availability, and the newly introduced defendant. But one thing was clear. If Monica Sementilli was guilty, she didn't seem worried. Even when the accusations did, she sits in court wearing designer glasses, calm, composed, not grieving, not shaken. Her fingers interlock neatly on the defense table. When Robert Baker spoke, describing the alleged conspiracy, she didn't flinch. When prosecutors read out the Facebook posts she made the day after Fabio's murder, calling him the man of my dreams, she just blinked. And when the defense accused Baker of being a spurned, unstable lover, acting alone and turning on Monica to save himself, her face didn't change. She was going to kill me first, Baker once told a friend, according to grand jury transcripts. I just beat her to it. The words hang heavy. Whether they're true or part of another twisted story remains for the jury to decide. But one thing haunts those following the case: Monica's smirk. Captured on camera at her November 2024 court appearance, the moment went viral. Some say it was arrogance, others say it was nerves, but to many it looked like something else: control. The questions remain. As of March 2025, Monica Sementilli has not yet been convicted or cleared. Her trial continues, stalled by procedural fights, the emergence of new defendants, and disputes over admissible evidence. Christopher Austin's role is still unclear. Was he a third conspirator, or an unwitting accomplice caught in a spiral of betrayal? Monica remains behind bars, awaiting judgment. She has maintained her innocence from the beginning. Her children, now young adults, have largely remained silent, torn between grief and confusion. Fabio's legacy lives on in the beauty world. Tributes pour in at every major hair show. His name is spoken with reverence, not scandal. But behind the story of scissors, secrets, and seduction lies a harder question. Was Monica Sementilli a cold-blooded mastermind, or a woman used and then blamed for the darkest kind of love? Justice may be blind, but it's watching.